I am happy to be here with my good friend Kevin Lipson. I've always said to Kevin that he is my favorite energy lawyer that has season tickets to the Packers. There's no one I like more with those two stipulations. I mean it when I say that.
Thank you.
And I've known Kevin for close to 10 years now, I want to say. It all started with a Patek Philippe 5960P, which is not here, but many of these are Govberg watches, and I think I got you, early in your collecting game, I would say. And it's
in my second phase of collecting.
In your second phase of collecting. And it's been very cool watching you change your preferences, and you've put together an awesome collection, which I'm really looking forward to talking about. So I'm happy that you're here. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me. I started with Rolex when I was a young guy, about 140 years ago. I began with a two-tone Daytona, and I remember going to, it was the first really big expenditure I made, and my wife was freaking out that I was going to spend this money on a watch, and I went to the Rolex jeweler and he showed me this two-tone Daytona with a white dial, and it was really flashy, and I said, "Does it keep good time?" And he said, "Son, you don't wear a Rolex to keep good time." That was kind of my introduction to Rolex.
And how old were you at the time?
I think I was 30.
Okay.
My first watch.
And now you have 3 Daytonas, is that right? I know you have 3 here. Do you have any more?
That's my 30th Daytona.
Wow.
I used to buy them and then sell them to buy new ones, and I did that for a very long time. And I had 27 that I bought and ultimately sold to buy new ones.
Your collection is largely Patek and Rolex, would you agree?
Yes, with my Casio outlier.
Of course, yeah, and a new Cartier edition as well. So why do you primarily focus on Patek and Rolex, would you say?
Wow. I actually do for a couple of reasons. One is practical, and the other, I think, is aesthetic. These are obviously not inexpensive vices. And so when I buy a watch, I like to make sure that I'm not going to get killed financially in it at some point. So I find that these two brands in particular, you can make a purchase, you can enjoy the watch, and over some period of time, although you may have some depreciation, you feel like you've made a sound investment. I'm reluctant to use the term investment, but in a sense, I think that these are a good way to diversify the way you spend money.
So tell me about these that you have now. You have the classic 116520, the all steel Daytona,
steel, yeah.
And then you have the Govberg purchase here, the new stainless and ceramic.
Yes.
And then you have the vintage.
Yes.
Which do you like the most and why? Loaded question, different price points. I mean, tell me about these 3, what they mean to you.
I think they have different purposes. The watch that I admire the most is the vintage. I bought that from the original owner, original box and papers, including the outer box. If you turn it over, you can see the inscription to the original owner. It was a college graduation gift to the original owner. My parents gave me a pair of shoes. This guy's parents gave him this watch. He
made out better than you
He did. Well, I have a very nice pair of shoes from it. No, but he did make out better. So I love that watch because it's a 62-63 with a Bakelite bezel. It's in great condition, never been polished, original box and papers, and it's kind of a classic watch. It wears bigger than it is. I think it's a 39 millimeter, and it wears bigger. It's just a beautiful watch, floating red Daytona. The one I wear every day is the one in the middle, because Rolex is really a very robust watch.
They're tanks.
They are tanks.
As indestructible as it gets.
I know this sounds a little peculiar to say it, and I say it recognizing that they still cost a lot of money, but they're robust. You can wear them, you can bang them around, you can desk dive with them, you can wear them in the water, you can garden with them, you can wash your car with them, and nothing ever happens to them. They're indestructible. And Patek Philippe, I just don't think you can go wrong with them. As you know, if you've had the opportunity to see how they're made, they're spectacularly made. They're spectacular watches. They're like little machines, and they're beautiful. They're largely extremely reliable, and I just like them.
One of the things I love about Patek, I love a lot of things about the brand, is how diverse the collection is. I mean, you can get, when you say, oh, I picked up a Patek, it's like, did you get a sports model, rubber strap, stainless steel bracelet, or did you get a dress watch, precious metal on a leather strap? And now they opened it up with the whole pilot's line. So you have pretty much, all sorts of different, Pateks here on the table. What did you get first? What was your first Patek Philippe? I guess was it the 5960p that I sold you, or did you?
No, my first one was the 5960p, which I didn't bring with me. And then I wanted really to have something representative of every line.
Every family,
Calatrava. So, this 5107R is a kind of a beautiful looking watch. It's very plain. It's, I just think it's a beautiful dial. The only complication is the date in the center second hand. It's fairly small, but
smaller watches are coming back in, by the way.
Yeah.
We've seen the trend is more towards smaller watches, and the bigger watch craze seems to be over. I mean, subject to change, obviously, but.
Well, I think there's a place for both the larger, 42, 40 millimeter, and then I think this is probably 36 or 37 millimeter. But I do like that. It's a nice watch. And then, of course, I got the 5130 with a different dial.
This is one of my favorite stories ever when it comes to a watch purchase. Leave it to Kevin, not a bashful, shy individual. We went, it was 2011, was it? When we
2013.
2013. We went to Geneva on a Patek factory trip, and we were in the executive dining room getting to have lunch with
But that wasn't
Thierry
the first
Stern.
time it happened.
When was the first time? Oh, that's right. I remember you telling me that you asked him once before.
Right.
I'll let you
so
tell him.
I was invited to the opening of a Geary's Patek Philippe salon in Beverly Hills.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you have to recognize, I'm not the Sultan of Brunei. I'm not a major collector. I owned 2 Patek Philippe watches at the time. But I was fortunate enough to be invited to this opening. And I met Thierry Stern, the president of Patek Philippe, and I asked him if he would make a 5130, which is the Patek Philippe World Time, with Jerusalem on the dial. Because they had made it with Mecca on the dial and other Arab
cities,
capitals on the dial, and I thought it would be very nice to have one made with Jerusalem on the dial. And he politely said no. And then I came to a Patek Philippe event hosted by Govberg in Philadelphia at the Franklin Center, Franklin Institute, and awesome. I met Thierry Stern again, and I said, I don't know if you remember me, and he said, yes, I do. And he
Can't forget this guy.
He said, you would like a 5130 with Jerusalem on the dial? I said, yes, I would. And he said, no, I won't make it. And
third time was the charm.
Third time was the charm. We went to visit Patek Philippe, or had the opportunity to actually see how these things are made, and it's an extraordinary opportunity, obviously, for which I'm very thankful. And I sat next to Thierry Stern, and I reminded him, and he actually agreed.
Instantly. I saw it.
Yes.
It was crazy. I couldn't believe it. It was almost like an awkward silence afterwards.
Yes.
Will you put Jerusalem on the world time for me? Yes, like instantly. And it was almost like he was prepared for, I know that guy. He's got me again. You know what? I'm in a good mood. I'm going to do it. And I was
and he agreed to do it.
Awesome.
And he agreed to make, I think, 7 of them. And most of the people around the table wanted one with a white gold case, and I asked for one in a rose gold case, and that's it.
I got the white gold one.
Yeah. It's a great watch. So
it really is.
There's an episode of your competitor Hodinkie's Talking Watches, and John Mayer. It's a great episode. And John Mayer says in this episode that his dream is to have a custom Patek Philippe dial. And every time I see it, I always look at the screen and say, I've got one.
There you go. You're one leg up on him on that one.
One leg up on John Mayer.
There you go. So you seem to be more increasingly interested in vintage, and It seems to be a trend in the industry. I've said it a lot of late. I don't think that there is a crazy amount of innovation. So you see a lot of people going back to, what's been done in the past and isn't available now, in the primary market. And I think a lot of the brands are making watches off of watches that they've done in the past. What's your fascination with vintage? Do you think that high-level collectors are going to increasingly get into vintage? I know the market's super strong. Granted, it's strong on the primary as well. What are your thoughts there?
Well, look, over time, your watches become vintage, just like we become vintage.
It's true.
So I think that's
time.
just the natural order of things. I actually collected vintage watches years ago. Before I kind of renewed my collection with new watches. I'm kind of a collector by nature, and I actually have a fascination with history. So I began collecting campaign buttons, political items, when I was an 8-year-old kid. And then it evolved slowly. When I should have been buying watches, I was buying campaign buttons, which was pretty foolish. But I've always had a fascination with history. So this watch is an example. I actually bought this for my dad in 1996. And my father was a kind of a ham-fisted guy, very athletic guy, and he could not figure out the 3 crowns here. And so
what do those do?
Invariably, when he was setting the time, he would pull off the chronograph crown. And so I replaced the crowns for him literally half a dozen times. And I actually, when he passed away in 2011, I was going through a drawer of his, and I found this watch at the bottom of the drawer. And I had it restored, but I kept the bezel because, as you can see, he beat the crap out of the bezel, which was just the way he took care of watches.
It wouldn't have been right for you to replace it.
Right,
That's
and
great.
so that's what I like about vintage watches. They're worn, and they tell a story. Sometimes it's not your story, but in a sense, these all become your story. These watches mark experiences in your life. I don't attach any great historical significance to it. It's just they're markers of your time here. And sometimes they will commemorate something interesting, a birth of a child, marriage, sometimes just a rite of passage, progress through your career, a whole host of things. So they kind of jog memories, and I've always liked vintage.
Well, another, I guess you could call it vintage now, chronograph that you have is the one on your wrist. I know that that's one of your favorites and made for like a 1-year production run, right?
Right.
In yellow gold, and I know that was the one that you wanted out of the different metals.
This is the one that I really love this watch. It's a reference 5970J. They were about 100 of them made over a 1-year period. And and I'm not, look, I'm not an expert on movements, but I am, I do marvel at the beauty of the movement.
You can get lost in that
yeah,
one.
Just take a look at the
Lamagna-based perpetual chrono.
And just beautifully finished, kind of a lot of layers to the architecture. And what I marvel at is these are little machines. And the technology is the same technology that's existed for hundreds of years. And the fact that they are able to accurately tell the time and convey that in such a beautiful way, I love that watch.
It's engineering at the highest level, that's for sure.
And it's a beautiful watch.
What are your latest purchases here? I know you got this last summer. We got it through us, the 5522.
Yeah.
Tell me about. Yeah, I know that you were hot for that one. You really wanted that one.
Yeah, I love this watch. I think it's a controversial watch. People will say it looks like a Fossil watch, or it looks like an IWC Pilot watch.
It's too big.
It's too big. The lume on this thing is unbelievable.
Awesome. Love it.
It's like a clock. It's great, and it's very plain. I think it's my only time only watch.
This 600-piece limited edition Calatrava was released in 2017 as part of the Patek Philippe U.S. Grand Exhibition. Since then, the value of this watch has skyrocketed on the pre-owned market. Similar to the 5524G Pilot's travel time, the blue lacquer dial has applied Arabic numerals in 18-karat white gold. The watch features the same caliber 324S movement found in the 5711 Nautilus and comes with a brown calfskin strap, which Patek says resembles the belt buckles that pilots use to secure their survival kits.
I'm not attracted to everything that's super fancy and conveys that kind of prestige. This is one of my favorite watches
I was just
here.
about to get to that. In terms of time only, I was saying this was a new one, and I was shocked that you got this. I mean, I don't take you as like a Cartier guy. There are people out there, who say, Cartier is more like a jewelry brand, women's guy. You're like a true timepiece guy, and Cartier does make, some very nice timepieces. What made you gravitate towards this and pick this up?
I'll tell you what did. First of all, frankly, and I'm being candid here, the price of this thing was pretty remarkable. It's very well priced. It's stainless steel. It's very thin. It's very light. It's waterproof. It's very legible. And when you get to be my age, that becomes an issue. So I do like the legibility and the clean nature of it. In that sense, it's very much like the Pilot watch. It's very uncomplicated. And the price point for this watch is very reasonable, and there's a lot of buzz around this watch. So I think that for the price, which I believe is about $5,200, it's a pretty nice looking watch. It's a very plain, clear, large, true sports watch. And I've never owned a Cartier before, and I figured that would be worth at least trying one. And I wear it, I enjoy it. It's nice.
Yeah, perfect strap for the coat you're wearing right now.
Yes, thank you.
I was surprised you picked up that one. And then the other one, which you were getting to, which I am also surprised about, is this G-Shock. What made you want to take this one?
Well, to me, there's a lesson in this, and that is that you buy and you collect what you love. And you don't do it because you're trying to impress somebody, or you don't do it because you read about it in a magazine.
Too many people do that. They go on these forums and they're like, oh, you should get this. And I hear it all the time from selling to people. They learn afterwards, the hard way, where, oh, I was gonna get this, but everyone told me I needed to get this because I needed to be concerned about the value retention and everything. And you know what? Now I realize that this is the one that made me happy. I had to sell the one that everyone told me that I should have gotten, and I wish I had just bought it the one that I wanted the first time.
Exactly. So look, this watch is the 35th anniversary. I believe they call it the Full Metal Jacket, gold stainless steel watch. To me, it's just cool. I mean, honestly, I don't.
How often do you wear that thing? And when?
Not very often. I wear it.
Do you wear that on trial?
No, I don't. I've never worn that while representing a client. But I do wear it on the weekends, and it's kind of cool. This design has never changed in 35 years.
Yeah.
And
still doing well now, the brand.
Right.
Yeah, it has a very big cult following.
There's something to that, and I just think it's kind of cool looking, and honestly, it attracts a lot of attention. And I collect sneakers too. So when you wear this with sneakers, I like it. I just think it's kind of fun.
One watch I definitely wanted to touch on, which I am happy to be a part of. Not sure if Patek loves that you went custom on this, but I think they'll give you the pass. You're a loyal, big customer of theirs. So I sold this watch to Kevin, and do you ever switch it back to the bracelet?
I never have worn the bracelet once.
Interesting, because I like that bracelet. It's a comfortable bracelet too. But we got an ABP Paris strap. Black strap with red stitching to complement the black and red accents on this dial. Super comfortable strap, and in a way, it's like a one-of-one Patek. I mean, very few people. I know a lot of people have done similar things, but it's cool that it's personalized in a way to you.
Yeah, this is a great watch. Yeah, listen, it's an annual calendar, and it's in stainless steel. And the truth of the matter is that the market has been a little bit crazy on this watch. When it first came out, it was kind of a dog, and now it's starting to rebound. But I don't think that in the long run, a complicated Patek Philippe annual calendar chronograph in stainless steel is a bad thing to have.
That's for sure.
And it is very robust. Very, you can wear it. I don't wear it in the water, but you could, but I don't. The most recent watch that I got from you is this root beer roller sword GMT.
Love that watch. We were just raving about that thing.
A lot of people say that two-tones are too flashy and too 1980s. I'm a 1980s guy, so I actually think this is a beautiful looking watch.
I love this watch. I don't think it's too flashy at all. And I think that the bezel is done to perfection.
Yes.
I literally think that they did it, couldn't have done it any better. And what's interesting about this, it's a pretty versatile watch. I mean, you could wear it with what you're wearing right now. You could, wear it casually. You could dress it up.
I don't subscribe to that whole notion of you wear particular watches with what you're wearing for clothes. I just wear whatever. I like to make sure I wear a watch, periodically. So it really doesn't matter what I'm wearing. I'll wear any of these watches with anything, really,
well,
on any occasion.
They're all pretty versatile. You said that your big travel watch, though, is the Rolex GMT, in large part because you're not overly concerned with them because they're tanks.
They are tanks. The center high polished link does scratch, and I do go crazy from scratches. But what are you going to do? You can't do anything about it. I guess you could polish them. I've not polished any of my watches, so, and sometimes on the Patek Philippe's, I do have scratches, and I just think you have to live with them, and it's just part of the character of the watch.
Exactly, it builds character. Exactly, and if you polish it away, it hurts the value. A lot of people say that
Right.
when you take off a layer or anything, people want to know, has it ever been polished?
You sold me this watch as well.
Did indeed, yes.
And this is this is kind of a remarkable watch in the market right now because
Insane.
it's insane. And
One sold at auction last week or 2 weeks ago, Christie's, for $52,500.
$52,500, which is a remarkable premium over the retail price. It's a great watch. It's waterproof. I do wear this in the water, and it's a terrific watch, and it's surprisingly robust for a Patek Philippe. This is another watch I'm
happy to hear that you're still wearing that and in the water. There are a lot of people, and I understand this psyche. The watch has gone up so much in value that they no longer want to wear it. It's like, when I bought it, it was $25,000, $24,800, and now I see that it's going for 2 times that, and it's like, I don't want to wear it because I don't want to bang it and hurt the value of it. It's interesting. I hear it regularly, but that's not the case for you.
Why buy it?
Yeah, that's my way of thinking. I wear all my watches too, but
though I have this recurring dream, if you will, which shows you how boring my life is, that this is what I dream about. I always dream I'm going to find a Patek Philippe 1518 or 2499
right.
in some barn find, and but of course
good
it doesn't
luck.
happen.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen. But so I can understand why some people might not want to wear their watches, but I think you have to wear them.
Yeah, agreed. So what's next?
I'll tell you the watches that interest me. I like the stainless steel Sky Dweller with the blue dial. Can't find it.
Mm-hmm.
I do like the, is it a 5968? Is that the reference number?
That Aquanaut
the Aquanaut chronograph. I love that. I think I would stick with Patek Philippe, but they're so expensive that I have to wait till I have the resources to make the purchase. Probably have to make some changes in my collection in order to do that, but that keeps it fun.
There you go. So what is your GRAIL watch? Loaded question, tough question. I don't even know how I'd really answer it myself. Where would you go with those questions?
There are a couple of watches that I really like. One is vintage, the 2526 Patek Philippe first automatic waterproof watch. Believe it or not, on a gold bracelet. I like the original Patek Philippe brick gold bracelet, which I've never, other than this crazy thing, I've never really worn a gold bracelet. But I do love that watch, first series, where the baton markers are actually dimpled into the enamel. It's a really beautiful watch, and the prices are all over the map. I followed that for a while, and I do like that. I would love a 1518. And I actually came close at one point to trading a bunch of watches for a 1518, but I didn't do it. I don't know that I necessarily have a GRAIL watch. I just like the idea of the craftsmanship. I like the idea of the beauty of the movements, and anything that strikes my fancy at a particular time, if I'm in a position to be able to do it, I would do it. But I don't. It's not like I'm lusting after a particular watch.
Right.
I had as you know, I had a Paul Newman Daytona, which I sold through you.
Yep.
About a year before the Paul Newman auction. And that watch is now worth 3 times what you sold it for, so probably 4 times what you paid me for it. And so there's a lesson in that. And the lesson is that some of these things may actually at some point be great investments.
It's true.
I wouldn't, bet the ranch on it necessarily, but it can happen.
It can go the other way as well,
It
too, like we've seen. Kevin, really appreciate you coming in. I know it's not a quick trip for you. You've been incredibly loyal to us here at Goffberg. I feel like you can, whenever we have an event midweek, whether it be with our, sister company Yamron down in Naples, you're coming down there, midweek Philly,
as long
we're
as
going on
swag.
to Geneva. As long as there's
swag. As long as there's
yes,
swag, I'll be there.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. So listen, one last thing. I have an Instagram account, and I have 108 followers. Now, my niece has 1.3 million followers.
Really?
Yes.
What does she post?
She won the CrossFit World Championship Games.
Wow.
Her name is Camille
Impressive.
LeBlanc-Bazinet.
Unbelievable.
So I would like to break the 200
All right,
followers.
we gotta make that happen.
Kevin.Lipson
You
on
hear
Instagram.
that? There you go.
Please.
All right, we're gonna double that.
Very good.
I'm sure.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you for coming.